People still expect you to show up like nothing's wrong. So what do? You wear the mask. I'm fine. I'm good. It's nothing. But deep down, you're fighting a war nobody knows about. And let me tell you something, that silent war, that's where greatness is born. Not in comfort, not when everything is working out, but in the struggle, in the pressure, in the moments where you feel like you're about to break, but you knew. That's where strength is built. See, everybody celebrates success. They see the wins, the applause, the results, but they don't see the nights you cried. They don't see the mornings you woke up empty. They don't see the moments you question your worth. But those moments, because pain has a purpose. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't look like it. But pain is a teacher, a hard one. It strips you. It exposes you. It forces you to face yourself. And most people, they run from that. They distract themselves. They numb themselves. They avoid the truth. But not you. You're still here. And that tells me something. You've got strength in you that you haven't even discovered yet. But understand this, strength doesn't come easy. First, you feel the pain. Then you fight it. Then you question it. And eventually, you grow through it. But growth demands honesty. You have to be real with yourself about what hurt you, about what broke you, about what you tolerated. Because sometimes the hardest truth is this: not everything that hurt you was out of your control. Sometimes you stayed too long. Sometimes you ignored the signs. Sometimes you held on to people who had already let go of you. And that fear of starting over, that's what kept you stuck. But pain pushes you. It forces movement, even when you don't want to move. And I know what you're thinking. Why does it hurt this much? Because transformation is not comfortable. You don't become stronger by staying the same. Pressure creates diamonds. Fire refines gold. And pain reveals who you really are, but only if you let it. Because you have a choice. You can let pain break you, or you can let it build you. So, most people break, they quit, they shut down, they blame everything and everyone. But you're different. You've come too far to fall apart now. Too many battles, too many nights, too many moments where you could have quit, but didn't. So this is where it changes. This is where you stop running from the pain and start learning from it. Because inside your pain, there is power. Rejection teaches you self-worth. Failure teaches you resilience. Loss teaches you appreciation. And being alone, that teaches you who you really are. And when you truly know yourself, your value, your standards, your purpose, nothing can shake you the same way again. But you have to go through it. There's no shortcut, no easy way out. You have to feel it, face it, fight through it. And yes, there will be days you want to quit. Days where it feels too heavy. Days where nothing makes sense. But those are the days that define you, not the easy ones, the hard ones, the painful ones. The days you don't want to keep going, but you do anyway. That's strength. So don't run from the pain. Don't hide from it. Use it. Because one day you're going to look back at this moment and realize this wasn't what broke you. This was what built you. Stronger, wiser, unshakable. Now listen carefully. Pain was never meant to be your home. It was meant to be your turning point. Too many people live in their pain. They build their identity around it. I'm broken. I'm damaged. This is just who I am now. No, that's not who you are. That's just what you went through. Pain doesn't define you. It refines you, but only if you decide to rise. And that decision, that's everything. Not when life gets easier, not when people change, but the moment you say, enough waiting, enough blaming, enough holding myself back. That's when your power returns. Because when you take ownership, you take control. And control, that's power. Now hear this truth. Healing is your responsibility. You didn't deserve the pain. You didn't ask for it. But if you don't heal it, you carry it into your future. And that weight, it will slow you down. So you have to let it go. Not for them, for you. Forgiveness doesn't mean it was okay. It means I refuse to carry this anymore. And that takes real strength because it's easier to stay angry. But growth requires release. And while you're letting go of them, don't forget to let go of the old you, the version that doubted, the version that settled, the version that stayed silent. That version got you here, but it's not taking you forward because you're evolving. In evolution, it's uncomfortable. You won't feel ready. You won't feel confident, but you move anyway. That's growth. Now understand this. Transformation is not one moment. It's a daily decision. Every day you choose discipline over excuses, growth over comfort, faith over fear. Fear will always be there, but fear doesn't mean stop. It means you're stepping into something bigger. And on the other side of fear is the life you've been waiting for, but you have to earn it. Nothing real comes easy. You want strength, you go through struggle. You want confidence. You face your insecurities. You want success. You outwork your excuses. That's the price. And if you're still here, still fighting, still trying, then you're already paying it. Now let me leave you with this. There will be a moment where it feels like you've got nothing left. No energy, no answers, no hope. That's the breaking point. But that's also the moment where your true strength shows up. Because when everything is gone and you still choose to hold on, even just a little, that's who you really are. Not the version people see, the real you. And that version is powerful. So if today is heavy, if today feels like too much, don't think about forever. Just get through today. That's it. One step, one breath, one decision. Because strength isn't built all at once. It's built by refusing to quit, one day at a time. So stand up, wipe your tears, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And remind yourself you're still here. And as long as you're still here, your story is not over. Not even close. Now listen, there comes a shift in every person's life. A moment where pain stops being just something you survive and starts becoming something you understand. Because at first, pain feels random, unfair, cruel, pointless. But later, if you stay long enough in your own story, you start to see something deeper. You realize nothing you went through was wasted. Not the betrayal, not the rejection, not the nights you thought you wouldn't make it through. None of it. Because every broken moment was building something inside you that comfort never could. Strength, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. See, real strength doesn't shout. It shows up. It shows up when life gets heavy. It shows up when nobody's watching. It shows up when quitting would be easier, but you don't. And that's where most people don't understand you. They think strength is about winning. But real strength is about standing back up after you've already lost and doing it again and again until something inside you changes. Not your circumstances, but you. Because life won't always change quickly, but you can. And when you change, everything around you starts to shift. But it starts inside the silence, inside the struggle, inside the moments where you feel like nothing is working. That's where you're being rebuilt, not destroyed. Rebuilt. But rebuilding is uncomfortable because it forces you to face things you'd rather ignore. Your habits, your mindset, your excuses. Yeah, your excuses. Because sometimes the real enemy isn't what happened to you. It's what you keep repeating after it. I can't. It's too late. I'm not ready. It's not the right time. But let me be honest with you. There is no perfect time. There is only now. And now is where everything changes. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Because every person you admire, every story you respect, every success you wish you had started in a moment just like this. A moment of uncertainty. A moment of pain. A moment where giving up made sense. But they didn't. They stayed. They fought through the confusion. They pushed through the doubt. And that's why their story changed. Not because life got easier, but because they got stronger. And that's what's happening to you right now. You may not see it yet, but something in you is shifting. The version of you that used to quit easily, it's fading. The version of you that used to doubt everything, it's weakening. Something new is rising, something quieter, something stronger, something more focused. And it doesn't need motivation, it needs direction. But purpose stays. And once you connect your pain to purpose, you stop running from it, you start using it. Now hear me clearly, your pain is not your enemy. It's your message. It's telling you where you need to grow. It's showing you what needs to change. It's pointing you toward your next level, but only if you listen, because most people don't. Most people try to escape it. They stay busy. They distract themselves. They pretend everything is fine, but you can't heal what you refuse to face. You can't grow from what you avoid, and you can't become who you're meant to be if you keep running from what shaped you. So stop running. Turn around, look at it, understand it. Because once you understand your pain, you stop fearing it. You start mastering it. That's where power begins. Not when life gets easier, but when you stop being controlled by what hurt you. Now listen, there will still be days where it comes back. Memories, thoughts, feelings, that old weight trying to pull you back. And in those moments, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware. Aware that you've survived it before. Aware that you're not who you used to be. Aware that you have already made it through things that once felt impossible. That awareness, that's your anchor. Because pain will try to make you forget. But strength reminds you, I've been here before, and I made it out. And that's what keeps you going. Not confidence, not certainty. Memory, the memory of survival. The proof that you didn't break. And every time you choose to continue, you build more proof, more strength, more resilience, more identity, until one day you don't just survive pain, you outgrow it. It no longer defines you. It no longer controls you. It becomes something in your past, not your present. And that's when you realize something powerful. You were never weak. You were just in the process of becoming strong. So don't rush it. Don't force it. Don't compare your timeline to anyone else's, because your journey is not late. It's just unfolding. It's just unfolding. And everything you're feeling right now, the confusion, the heaviness, the pressure, it's not the end of your story. It's the middle, the part where everything feels uncertain, right before everything starts to make sense. And when it does, you won't just understand what happened. You'll understand why it had to happen. So hold on, not because it's easy, but because you're becoming someone who doesn't quit when it's hard. And that version of you, that version changes everything. Quietly, powerfully, completely. So keep going, even if it's slow, even if it's messy, even if nobody sees it yet. Because one day they will. And more importantly, you will. And when you do, you won't recognize the person who almost gave up, because they won't exist anymore. Only the one who stayed, the one who endured, the one who rose. That's who you're becoming. And that is unstoppable. Now listen to me closely, because what I'm about to say is where most people either change their life or stay stuck in it. There is a point in every journey where pain stops feeling like something happening to you and starts becoming something happening for you. But you don't see it at first. No, at first pain feels like punishment, like everything is against you, like life is unfair, like you were chosen to suffer more than others. And in that mindset, you start asking the wrong question. Why me? But that question keeps you trapped. Keeps you trapped. Because a why me has no answer that will satisfy you. But there is another question, a better one, a stronger one. What is this trying to build in me? Now that question changes everything, because suddenly you're no longer a victim of your story. You become a student of it, not a student of it. And when you become a student of your pain, you stop wasting it. See, nothing in your life is just happening. Not the losses, not the delays, not the disappointments. It is all shaping something deeper than what you can see right now. But you have to stay in it long enough to understand it, because most people quit right before clarity shows up, right before the lesson becomes visible, right before the pain turns into direction. And that's the tragedy. They leave the classroom right before the exam reveals the answer. But you're still here, which means something in you is still searching, still listening, still willing to grow. And that willingness, that's rare, because growth is not comfortable. Growth will make you question yourself. It will strip away your ego. It will remove the things you thought defined you. And in that emptiness, you will feel lost. But being lost is not the same as being finished. It just means you are in transition. And transition always feels like chaos before it becomes clarity. Let me tell you something real. Every strong person you admire has been through a phase where they felt like nothing was working. Not just once, many times. But the difference between them and others is they stayed in the process. They didn't abandon themselves when things didn't make sense. They didn't quit just because it got heavy. They adjusted, they learned, they endured. And that endurance, that's what built them. Not talent, not luck, not timing. Endurance, the ability to stay in the fire without losing yourself in it. Because fire doesn't just destroy, it also purifies. It removes hesitation. It teaches awareness. It forces growth. And whether you realize it or not, you are growing. Even on days you feel stuck, even on days you feel lost, even on days you feel nothing is changing. Something is changing inside you, quietly and permanently. Because real transformation does not announce itself. It doesn't ask for attention. It works in silence, like roots growing underground before a tree ever appears above it. And that's where most people misunderstand their journey. They expect visible progress immediately. But life doesn't work like that. Life builds foundations first, then it builds height. But if you rush the process, you weaken the structure. So what feels like delay is actually protection. What feels like silence is actually preparation. And what feels like nothing is happening is actually everything changing. But you have to stay with it. That's the part most people fail. They leave too early. They quit in the middle of the building phase because they can't see the result yet. But results don't show up for those who leave early. They show up for those who stay long enough to become the version of themselves that can handle them. Because if you are not ready, success will break you faster than failure ever could. Let that sink in. Some blessings are delayed because you are still being strengthened for what you asked for. And if it came too early, it would destroy you instead of building you. So don't confuse timing with rejection. Don't confuse silence with abandonment. And don't confuse difficulty with failure. Sometimes difficulty is the qualification. Now listen carefully. There will be moments when you feel like giving up on yourself. Not because you are weak, but because you are tired. And tired people start believing thoughts they normally wouldn't believe. Thoughts like, I can't do this. I'm not enough. Or nothing is changing. But those thoughts are not truth. They are fatigue speaking. And fatigue always exaggerates reality. That's why you cannot make life decisions from a tired mind. You must learn to pause, not quit. Because there is a difference between being overwhelmed and being finished. And you are not finished. You are overwhelmed. There is a difference. And that difference matters. Because overwhelmed people recover. Finished people don't try again. And you are still here, still thinking, still feeling, still trying to understand. That alone proves something powerful. You haven't given up. Even if you feel like you are close, you haven't crossed that line. And that means there is still fight in you. And as long as there is fight in you, there is future. But listen, that fight must be directed, not scattered, not emotion, not reactive, focused, because energy without direction turns into frustration. But energy with direction turns into progress. So instead of asking a why is this happening to me, start asking, what am I building through this? Because every challenge is shaping something: discipline, patience, emotional control, self-respect. These are not given, they are developed. And pain is often the teacher, not because it is kind, but because it is effective. It forces honesty, it forces awareness, it forces growth. And if you avoid it, you avoid growth with it. So don't waste your struggle, use it. Let it sharpen your thinking. Let it refine your decisions. Let it strengthen your identity. Because one day you will look back at this version of yourself and you will recognize something powerful. You were not weak. You were in training. Training for resilience. Training for discipline. Training for the life you once thought you couldn't handle. And now you are handling it. Step by step. Day by day. Even if it doesn't feel perfect. Even if it doesn't feel fast. You are still moving. And movement matters more than speed. Because speed without direction is just chaos. But steady movement with awareness, that becomes transformation. So keep moving, even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, even if nobody is clapping. Because the people who win in life are not always the loudest. They are the ones who refuse to stop. And you are still in the race, not at the end, not at the finish, but in motion. And motion is everything. So don't stop now, not when you are still becoming the person you were meant to be. Because what is ahead of you is bigger than what tried to break you, and you are closer than you think. Listen, there is a point in your journey where something shifts quietly inside you, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. It's the moment where you stop asking life to be easier, and you start deciding to become stronger. And that shift, it's everything. Because most people spend their lives waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for the right people, waiting for motivation. But life doesn't reward waiting. Life rewards decision. And the moment you decide, really decide, that you are no longer going to be controlled by what happened to you, something changes in your identity. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. You stop living from emotion. Stop living from emotion. You start living from discipline. And discipline is where freedom is born. Now let me be clear. Discipline is not comfort. It is not easy. It is not exciting every day. Some days, discipline feels like resistance. It feels like doing what you said you would do, even when everything inside you says stop. But that is exactly where your future is built. Not in inspiration, not in motivation, in consistency, in showing up again and again and again, even when nobody sees it. Because the truth is, your life is not shaped in public. It is shaped in private, in the choices nobody applauds, in the habits nobody notices, in the discipline nobody celebrates. That is where your identity is formed, and your identity will always determine your outcome, babe. So if you keep repeating the same patterns, you will keep getting the same results. But if you change your patterns even slightly, your future begins to shift. Now hear me, change is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle, choosing not to react the same way. Choosing not to quit this time. Choosing to get up when you normally would stay down. Those small decisions, they accumulate, and one day they become transformation. But you won't feel it happening. Because growth rarely feels like progress in the moment. It feels like effort. It feels like resistance. It feels like nothing is changing, but behind the scenes, everything is changing. Because every time you choose discipline over emotion, you weaken the old version of you. And every time you choose effort over excuses, you strengthen the new one. And slowly, without you even noticing, you begin to become someone different. Someone more grounded, more focused, more aware, more dangerous in the best way. Because now you are no longer reacting to life. You are shaping it. But let me also tell you something important. This process will test you. Not once, many times, because life doesn't just reward change. It tests if you really meant it. So don't be surprised when old patterns come back. Don't be shocked when doubt returns. Don't be surprised when comfort tries to pull you back. That is part of the process. But the difference now is awareness. You see it, you recognize it, and you choose differently. That is power, not perfection. Choice. Because every time you choose differently, you are rewriting your direction. Now listen closely. There is a version of you that already exists ahead of this struggle. A version of you that is calmer, stronger, more stable. Not because life became easy, but because you became disciplined enough to handle it. That version is not a fantasy. It is a result of what you do now. And the gap between who you are and who you are becoming is bridged by your daily decisions. Not big moments, daily ones. So stop underestimating small choices, because small choices create large consequences. Now, here is something most people never realize. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. So if you want a different life, you don't start by changing everything. You start by changing what you repeat, because repetition becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. But I need you to understand something else too. This is not just about success. This is about who you become in the process, because success without growth is empty, but growth through struggle, that builds something unshakable. Character. And character is what holds everything together when life becomes unpredictable. So don't rush this phase. Don't despise it. Don't waste it. Because one day you will miss the version of you that was still built, still fighting, still becoming, because that version had something powerful, hunger. And hunger creates movement. Comfort kills it. So protect your hunger. Even when life improves, especially when life improves, because the moment you stop growing, you start drifting, and drifting is silent. You don't notice it immediately, but over time you lose direction. So stay alert, stay intentional, stay in control, not of everything around you, but of yourself, because that is where real power lives. And if you can master yourself, you can handle anything life brings. Now listen, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not late, you are in formation, and formation takes time. But if you stay consistent, if you stay aware, if you stay disciplined, then one day you will look back at this moment and realize this was the turning point. Not when everything changed outside, but when everything changed inside. And from that moment forward, nothing was ever the same again. Because you were no longer becoming, you had become. And that is the beginning of real strength. Now listen, and if you're still here, still reading, still holding on to these words, then understand something clearly. You are already stronger than you think, because weak people don't sit with truth. They don't face themselves. They don't stay in the silence long enough to grow from it. But you did. And that means something inside you refuses to quit. Now let's bring this to its ending. Not as a conclusion of pain, but as the beginning of perspective. Because one day, you won't remember every detail of what broke you, but you will remember what it built. And what it builds is always greater than what it takes. See, life was never only about what happens to you. It was always about what happens inside you while it happens. That's where the real story is written. Not in the events, but in your because two people can go through the same storm and come out completely different. One becomes bitter, the other becomes wiser. One collapses, the other evolves. So the difference was never the pain. It was the decision made inside the pain. And now it comes down to you. What will you become? Because you cannot control everything that has happened, but you can control what you carry forward. And that is where freedom begins. Freedom is not when life is perfect. Freedom is when your past no longer controls your present. When what hurt you no longer leads you. When what broke you no longer defines you. That is real freedom. Now hear this deeply. You are not your lowest moment. You are not your worst mistake. You are not the things people said when you were down. You are not the chapter where everything fell apart. You are the one who is still writing. And as long as you are still writing, nothing is final. Not your pain, not your failure, not your story. Because endings only belong to those who stop. And you didn't stop. Even when it hurt, even when it was heavy, even when it made no sense, you stayed. And staying That is strength most people never talk about because quitting is loud. But endurance is quiet, and quiet strength builds the strongest lives. So if nobody clapped for you, that's okay. Because what you are building right now is not for applause. It is for transformation. Transformation. And transformation doesn't need an audience. It only needs consistency. Now let it settle in your mind. You are going to look back at this season one day, not with confusion, but with clarity, not with pain, but with understanding. And you will finally see it. This was not your downfall. This was your foundation. Every tear, every loss, every silent battle was shaping something in you that comfort could never create. So don't regret it. Don't erase it. Don't waste it. Let it mean something. Because pain without meaning becomes suffering, but pain with meaning becomes power. And now you get to choose what it becomes. So here is your ending, not of the struggle, but of the old mindset that came with it. You don't have to stay who you were in the pain. You are allowed to evolve beyond it. You are allowed to outgrow it. You are allowed to become someone who doesn't just survive life, but understands it. And from this point forward, you don't move as the broken version of yourself anymore. You move as the rebuilt one, stronger, calmer, clearer. Not because life changed first, but because you did. And that is the real victory, not escaping pain, but becoming unshakable inside it. So take this with you, not as motivation, but as truth. You are not behind. You are not done. You are not defeated. You are becoming. And what you are becoming is something life tried to break, but couldn't. So stand tall, not because everything is easy, but because you survived what wasn't. And that alone makes you different now. That alone makes you powerful. That alone means your story is still